NASA has had a long-lasting history on invention which brought the space age. Under their scientific programs, they have developed numerous technologies, and many of them made their way to our everyday lives. Since its foundation, NASA has operated under its primary charter to provide for research into problems of flight within and outside the Earth's atmosphere and for other purposes. In pursuit of this noble cause, many new scientific discoveries, patents, and spin-off technologies have been created. Daniel Lockney, Program Executive in Technology Transfer and spin-off partnerships at NASA headquarters in Washington, D.C., once told Space.com, "We get better airplanes, or we get better weather forecasting from space stuff, sure, but we also get better fed children. That's kind of stuff people don't necessarily associate." It is incredible how many gadgets have left the lab to become commercial products, and this list will count down the best we use today. A disclaimer from my side: this list is not exhaustive by far, so if I miss some notable inventions, let us know down in the comments. Number 10. The cordless vacuum cleaner. Funny enough, it started out as a lunar rock drill for NASA as part of their Apollo space mission. The original thought was to develop a portable, self-contained drill that could extract core samples from the surface of the Moon. Remember, portability was not a thing in the 1970s. Despite the agency's technological dream team, they approached Black & Decker to develop this tool, and they later devised a computer program to help optimize the design. Their research ultimately led to the development of a series of domestic battery-powered handheld devices. Foremost among them was the cordless miniature vacuum cleaner, now immortalized under the original 1970s brand name, the Dustbuster. The very first commercial cordless vacuum was introduced in January 1979, with many manufacturers copying the design ever since. And here's a nice trivia. The original 1979 Dustbuster was placed in the electrical collection of the Smithsonian National Museum of American History. Number 9. Space blankets. The name is a bit of a giveaway, but the space blanket, often found in camping equipment and first aid kit, is indeed the product of NASA research. If you've never used one, they're lightweight, very thin and low-bulk blankets made of thin, heat-reflective plastic sheeting. Their idea is to reduce heat loss from the body that would otherwise escape through radiation, water evaporation, or convection. The material was designed to be used on the exterior surfaces of a spacecraft. Essentially, it's a metallized polyethylene terephthalate. It was first developed as early as 1964 for use in the US space program. The space blanket material is usually gold or silver in color and is capable of reflecting up to 97% of radiated heat. For space applications, a polyimide substrate is usually also employed, as it is more resistant to the hostile environment found in space. Or let's say the lack of environment in space. Number 8. Hazard analysis and critical control point. Today, the HACCP is an integral part of the food safety guidelines around the globe. This standard was originally devised in the 1960s. At the time, NASA needed a means of ensuring any food sent to space was absolutely absent of disease-producing bacteria and other toxins. They looked to one of the industry leaders at the time, Pillsbury, to help them out. Pillsbury and NASA quickly realized that since the conventional end-of-process testing for contaminants consumed the entire sample product, it was entirely counterproductive to the desired goal. What was needed was a system of testing at different points throughout the manufacturing process that would ensure all end products were to the same acceptable standard. Pillsbury then drew inspiration from NASA's engineering critical control point concept and applied the concept to the manufacturing process of food products. This strategy allowed the prevention of contamination during production rather than evaluating the end product. This process would prove highly successful and is now an industry standard used in more than 150 countries. Number 7. Memory foam. Originally used to protect astronauts, memory foam was first developed by NASA in 1966. The original brief was to make customizable seats for astronauts in order to alleviate in part the effects of G-forces during takeoff and landing. It was important to have a comfortable seat, so engineers soon realized that the large variability of astronauts' physiques could cause a problem. They also noted that their body shapes change as they train. This could mean in theory that individual customizable seats might need to be adjusted for every flight. This was far from practical and finding another solution was pertinent. This solution was to devise a material that would mold the astronaut's shape and then return to its rest state when not in use, hence the term memory. Initially a patent by NASA, but in the early 1980s they released memory foam into the public domain. Although initially very expensive to replicate by private enterprises, the cost of manufacture has dropped drastically over time. Today you can find this technology in pillows, helmets, racing seats and athletic shoes among others. Number 6. Freeze drying. Freeze drying, though not invented by NASA, was greatly improved on by the agency as a means of providing nutrition to their astronauts during the long Apollo missions. Jacques Sauval is widely credited as the inventor of the freeze drying process more than 100 years ago in 1906. This was further developed by Nestle in 1938. Freeze drying was also widely used during the Second World War for the preservation of blood serum. After extensive research, NASA decided to employ and refine Nestle's freeze-drying technique for space food. In essence, the process involves low-temperature dehydration. Cooked food is first frozen under low pressure, then the ice crystals formed during freezing are removed by sublimation in a vacuum chamber. The foods can then be reconstituted simply by adding water. The technique proved to be highly efficient, with the foods retaining close to 100% of their nutritional value at a fraction of the weight prior to drying. Typically, freeze-dried foods retain only 20% of their original weight, effectively reducing the cost of space food transportation and storage. Unsurprisingly, the technique is widely employed today to provide highly portable nutritious meals for use by soldiers, disaster relief programs, backpacker hikers, and others. 5. Infrared thermometers. NASA collaborated with Diatech Corporation to develop the infrared oral thermometer. This device measures thermal radiation emitted by the patient's eardrum in much the same way the temperature of stars and planets is measured. It does this by inferring the temperature based on the thermal radiation emitted by the object being measured. Each device consists of a lens which focuses light from the object being measured onto a detector called the thermophile, which absorbs the infrared radiation and converts it into an electrical signal. The device compensates for ambient temperatures and converts the signal to temperature, which is then displayed. The immediate benefit of this type of thermometer is that it avoids contact with mucous membranes, reducing the risk of infection, and so can be easily reused without needing to be sterilized first. Sterilized uses lots of liquids, something space travel does not like. Today it is used in a wide range of applications, from monitoring hotspot temperatures in mechanical and electrical systems to checking patient temperatures from a distance. Number 4. Cochlear implants. Adam Kisaya, a former NASA instrumentation engineer, devised and developed cochlear implants in the mid-1970s. He spent his lunch breaks and other free time at Kennedy Space Center Technical Library studying how to apply engineering principles to improve hearing. Kisaya was driven to develop the device by his frustration with his own poor hearing. You see, he had been the recipient of 3 failed corrective surgeries to remedy the problem. His research and development took around 3 years to complete, and in 1977 he received a patent for his cochlear implant. Traditional hearing aids at the time simply amplified sounds to the patient, while Kisaya's device actually improved hearing. His cochlear implants were able to select speech signal information and convert them into electrical impulses into the patient's ear. It effectively bypasses the patient's natural hearing apparatus to send electrical impulses directly from the auditory nerve to the brain. Neat. Since its invention, the lives of hundreds of thousands, including those who have been deaf since birth, have been vastly improved by receiving corrective implants. Number 3. Baby formula. It was devised by a couple of NASA's dropouts. The agency was exploring the potential for algae to be used as a recycling agent for long-duration space travel. This eventually led to the creation of algae-based vegetable oil, later called Formulate. The additive was later commercially produced by Martek Biosciences Corporation in Maryland by former NASA scientists who worked on the original project in the 1980s. They received a US patent for Formulate in 1994. It has been touted as highly beneficial to infant mental and visual development, and is also considered a good dietary supplement. The reason for this is that it contains two essential polyunsaturated fatty acids. These are known as docosahexaenoic acid and arachidonic acid. These two fatty acids can also be found in human milk and tended to be lacking in most instant formulas developed for young infants. Both of these fatty acids have been shown to be very important for brain development, as well as being concentrated in human retinas. Despite their apparent importance, they cannot be synthesized by the human body and therefore need to be assimilated from the diet. Today, formulate is found in most enriched baby foods in the US and as an additive to infant formulas in more than 70 countries around the world. Number 2. Digital cameras. The cameras in our smartphones can partially trace their origins to the work of NASA/JPL scientist Eric Fossum, which centers around the miniaturization of cameras for interplanetary missions. To achieve this miniaturization, Fossum developed complementary metal oxide semiconductor, also known as CMOS, to image sensors that have now become widespread. Imaging devices using CMOS had been attempted before, but no one had succeeded in making the technology marketable because the CMOS-generated images tended to suffer from signal noise and other issues. Fossum's insight was to take advantage of a charge-coupled device technology to help improve the quality. This resulted in the creation of CMOS active pixel sensors, what is known today as the digital camera. This technology has since come to dominate the digital imaging industry. It also effectively paved the way for the incorporation of miniature cameras within smartphones and other devices. Number 1. Artificial limbs. NASA has contributed immensely to the field of prosthetics and artificial limbs. Their continuing investment in this field has led to the incorporation of many space-age advancements like shock absorption and cushioning. This in turn has allowed the private sector to create improved prosthetics. By working with companies like environmental robot INC, advances such as the artificial muscle systems, sensors, and actuators are quickly being refined and incorporated into modern dynamic artificial limbs. Other areas of development include the incorporation of NASA's memory foam technology and other custom moldable materials into artificial limbs, making them appear more realistic, more natural looking. Keep in mind, artificial limbs in the past looked like this. Other advancements include designs and materials that reduce friction between the limb and the patient's skin, as well as reducing heat and moisture buildup. Which of these inventions surprised you the most? Let us know down in the comments. I have left a ton of other awesome NASA-derived inventions to keep the video short, but there will be a part 2 in the coming weeks. In the meantime, I will upload tutorial videos for Microsoft Office tools and funny things I found on the internet. I will upload other videos as well about science, history and general knowledge. Subscribe today to watch them first. See you next time!